Alright, welcome back to a new video. It's been about 5 days or 6, if I'm not mistaken, from the last time I recorded. I'm not too sure. But progress with the current 50k ACG account has been going pretty well. I haven't done a recap in a minute, but I will go over the trades that I took throughout the week, as well as some insights on my confluences more in depth today. Uh, we have a lot to go over, a lot of trades to go over, and also a little bit on my thought process throughout this week. So it's currently Friday, so normally Fridays. Oh shit! I don't know what happened to my camera. So yeah, I will be going a lot in depth as well as my thought process throughout the week. I'm gonna go over the journal first, since I did already input most of the data for the first few trades. I'm gonna go over GBP GPY first, since it's the first trade I took on Monday. So unfortunately, this one was a loss, and this was on Sunday, by the way. This was around market open on Sunday at around 5 p.m. Normally, I do not trade on Sunday, but since the setup really looked good, I said I might as well take the position. It fit all my confluences. We had an internal point high, change of character, break of structure, failed break of structure, and then accumulation of liquidity, as well as a valid point of interest. I'm going to go over these terms really quickly. So internal point high, I will describe it more visually in another video. This video is mostly just to go over in a nutshell, like every single confluence. So an internal point high is a high that is protecting a point of interest that is also like a swing high before the rally down, such as this. This was a swing high, and then the rally down. But I like to look for internal point highs or internal point lows that have a strong wick to them. This one right here had a decent wick, but it's not too perfect. It wasn't too perfect. But normally I will go into another successful trade later on what exactly is a good internal point. But it's mostly a high that protects the position. So that's basically where I like to set my stop losses, a few pips, like a few pips above it or below it if it's an internal point low. So the difference between an internal point high and an internal point low is pretty much the same thing. Internal point high is a last swing high that has a wick that after follows with a point of interest to the downside, and an internal point low is pretty much the exact same thing. It's just the opposite. So if the market is bearish, it's obviously we're looking for internal point highs, and if the market is bullish, we are going to look for internal point lows. So that's how I kind of go over with internal point highs, internal point lows a little bit. Another one is break of structure. So break of structure, it's one of the best things to tell whether the market is going to proceed lower or higher. It's basically just price breaking below or above a recent swing low or swing high that that has printed either before a couple of displacement, a point of interest, and an internal point high or an internal point low, just as you could see here. Now, the problem with this one is, yes, there was a lot of displacement, but once it broke structure, we only had about 2 candles, which wasn't really a perfect displacement, but I kind of overlooked it at the time. And after that, a failed break of structure is pretty much the same thing. It's just that you could kind of say this break of structure here was more of an FBOS, since it wasn't really a strong displacement to the downside. It kind of came back after, and liquidity is pretty much just like an accumulation of price. So price kind of going sideways before potentially breaking out, hitting your entry, and then price. If we go over my journal here and look at what happened, was failed to identify higher time frame structure because price manipulated to the upside on the 4-hour. Scale up on the higher time frame. This was the 4-hour time frame, and normally looking at the 4-hour time frame, I do a little bit of price action sometimes, but it's not my main thing. But what I noticed here is that price just finished its dump and started accumulating liquidity, right? So what happens here is prices creating equal highs and equal lows, but we don't. And then we see here that price actually broke below this these equal highs here. So a lot of people will think, oh, okay, it broke. A lot of price action traders will be like, oh, it broke below the low. That means I'm gonna go short because that's the direction price is gonna head towards to. Most of the time, sometimes I'm not too sure myself. I don't trade price action, but it does do that sometimes. But in this case, this is what we call market manipulation, where price sweeps the equal highs, taking out a lot of the liquidity, and and after that price goes up instead of going down. So it kind of like, you know, it does a whole Uno reverse card on these traders and goes to the upside. So that was pretty much the mistake on my part. I failed to identify this price action here on the 4 hour, which unfortunately I took this trade while it was actually a bullish trade to the upside. As you can see here, after I got stopped out, price, yeah, it did come back, but I mean, it actually really the whole thing is it went back up to the upside on the 4 hour. So that's the main thing with this trade. So the next trade that I took was AUD USD. Unfortunately, this one was a really this one really pissed me off, because we can really see here again. I have the internal point lows, break of structure, lots of displacement, failed break of structure. We had a liquidity, and price came back to my entry, quickly stopping me out on the 5-minute chart, or the whole story of the market, whatever you want to call it. So unfortunately, yes, I lost another 0.20. Well, unfortunately for this one, I lost 0.25%. For some reason, I just felt like I shouldn't be risking too much. And the next trade that I took was on GBP USD. Sorry, AU. Was it? So for the second trade I took that day, I took it on GBP USD. And unfortunately, this trade also was a loss. This one I lost a lot more, which was around 0.5%. And this one, for some reason, the internal point low was very bad. It was not valid. Neither was the point of interest and the break of structure. All of them were just invalid, of course. And there was not a lot of displacement either from that break of structure. It was mostly in liquidity, which was not really good. It wasn't until I realized after, because before, like I said, I took a trade on AUD and that one failed miserably, and it kind of toyed around with my mindset. So I kind of rushed into this trade. But what I realized after was, right here was the real point of interest on the 5-minute. You can see this one here has 3 engulfing candles breaking up to the upside and has way more displacement than whatever this was right here. This is like price slowing down, coming down. This one is a continuation right here, and this is the failed break of structure. So price actually created this failed break of structure, came back down, and took and entered right at the exact on the dot on this 5-minute point of interest with this internal point low, which brought it up to the upside. So unfortunately, this was a lost trade as well. So I was already down like maybe 48,600. The next trade I'm gonna tell you is, I wouldn't say based off of luck, but it sure was a gamble for sure. And I'm not proud of this trade at all. But it was a successful trade, and it was able to bring me back up in my account. So I was actually in profit after this trade, which recovered all of the losses plus profit. It's just that at the time, this was all 3 trades in one day, and my mind was all over the place just because of the previous failed trades from Sunday to early morning Monday. It was just really bad, and I was starting to fall into old habits. I did get into old habits, and for some reason I kind of got lucky this time, and I'm definitely not proud of it as a trader who has been trading for 3 years. It's something I need to work on, but this win for sure did restabilize my mental state. But I'm gonna go over the trade really quickly. The successful one, unfortunately, my risk was a bit higher. So essentially, what I did, I'll show you my ACG real quick. I ended up doing market orders like 5 times, with one lot, so the risk wasn't very exact, but I'll show you here really quick. So I had pretty much 5 trades in a row where it was all just market orders. Like I think they were all like one lots, and this was a pretty risky gambly trade. But moving on, I won't be doing this anymore. Anyways, I have 2 more trades to go over. So the other one, this one right here, another lost trade. Really, the only thing I did was rush it. Non-valid IPLs, non-valid overall structure. Really another one of those impulsive trades. Yeah. After, I want to go over now this trade that I took 2 days ago, and I say this trade is perfect. Like this is just an amazing trade. Internal point lows, break of structure, liquidity, and point of interest. All of it is in there with a valid bullish structure to the upside. You can see here on the hourly, it's just breaking higher highs and higher highs, continuing to the upside. So that was a really good trade. Even here, I just said perfect trade. Perfect. It pretty much had everything. Even the Fibonacci, which I use a lot. Shout out to the Golden Spin, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reference. I love using Fibonacci's. This one was a 3.38 risk to reward, but a 0.5 risk at a profit of $895.79, which brought the account back up to I think it was like 2% by then. Yeah, it was around 2%. Yeah. And the final 3 trades that I took. So the trade that I took here was on Wednesday. So this was yesterday before I went on my hike. I went on a hike like early morning at like 7 a.m. or no, I think 8 to 9 ish. Yeah, but this trade was a really good trade. I honestly, it followed all of my confluences. It's just that, again, the same mistake as before. I mean, really, the only issue with this trade is that there's no bad reason for why this trade didn't work out. It's just that the market sometimes it doesn't follow. Sometimes the market just does its own thing. Can't really explain that too much, just because the market is unpredictable most of the time. And I tried to catch it up with this here, and this one, to be honest, was not a valid IPL, but this was a really valid break order block, in fact. So I assume that, let's say price does take me out of my stop loss. What is next? Price broke below my order block and stopped me out twice. So I got stopped out twice on the same day. So price just broke below a swing high and an order block. So most of the time what this means is a market structure shift, like as I explained earlier. When price breaks below a major swing low or a major low like this one, major low right here, and another one here broke a point of interest, it can be considered a rebound for another trade. So that's exactly what I did. So I scaled down to a lower time frame and I looked at price, did a break of structure, accumulated liquidity, a valid internal protected high or internal point high, and pretty much I just, I was like, okay, this looks perfect. I'm gonna set my entry and extend my stop loss to give it some air. And once price came into that zone, entered my entry, it was around London, and really it was just a really perfect trade. Like it was just as perfect as the trade that I took I think 2 days ago. Overall, really good trade, solid setup. Yeah, like it's just a really good trade. This week overall has been really good. Risk has been a little bit off in the beginning, but managed to keep it consistent. And now the account is up. I think it's up 4% now, which is amazing. Really amazing progress for the first week. Initially, I was expecting at least I make around like 2% a week, because I'm trying to really build this account very slowly. The other trades, they started to be consistent, and what I learned from my previous challenges is that the more I minimize my risk and focus on actually looking for high quality setups, it changes the game completely for me and for my mental. I'm able to control myself a lot more better than before, where I don't over risk more than I've already initially risked it. Say, for example, in a previous challenge, I would risk 1% or 2%. I lose that 2% the first trade, my mindset is immediately bad. Like, I need to recover that. I'm going to start increasing my risks, looking for setups that I shouldn't be taking. And that's one of the mistakes I'm really like, I got into the habit of doing. This account so far has taught me keeping risk management consistent, as well as looking for high quality setups and taking your time. Honestly, I think the results come in a lot better and more, how do I say it? You could say organically, or it's not rushed. It's just the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, like, so far it's really good. Looking to keep this up, and yeah, like, pretty good. Thank you guys for watching. I'll keep you guys posted on the future progress of this challenge, and yeah, like, have a good one. Peace.